All right, so we've got the Wizards being active yet again, sending out Kristaps Porzingis, who had a really positive 2022-23 season, to the Boston Celtics. And the Boston Celtics send out Marcus Smart and kind of lose that culture, that grit and grind. And they get back Kristaps, the giant 7-footer who has now been traded three times in his career, has an ACL injury, 7'1", can shoot. Very interesting. Um, Look, what I'm going to do, I'm going to break it down like this. Celtics were very similar. I think in our breakdown video we mentioned they're locked into a lot of money as well, or at least were, right? Especially with the Jalen Brown re-signing that I would assume would naturally occur probably now in this situation where they look like they're still trying to go for it. So what they sent out, they got rid of Danilo Gallinari, who had money tied up, but also had an ACL injury and didn't play at all last season. And Marcus Smart, who defensive player of the year before, but really fell out of the rotation and didn't look the same. And I guess what they've gambled on here is that his stock was as high as it was ever going to be moving forward, and that would continue to decline. So that was a good return on that. And getting back Kristaps, it gives them a kind of a versatile center who can pick and pop. Will play defense, averaged about, I think, just about 2 blocks per game. I think the reason why I'm reserved on this one is we have seen Kristaps in four different environments. We've seen him as the best player on the Knicks, and they were okay. We saw him playing second fiddle to Luka, which really felt like should have worked much better than it actually did, and that never really panned out because of Kristaps's inability to accept the role. Goes to the Wizards. I feel like we're going to see a very similar thing with Jordan Poole. It's a bit of a different vibe in Washington when you get to take 20 to 25 shots a game and everything's really easy and fun. But Kristaps is going to go to the Celtics and be the third option at minimum. And I don't know if he's demonstrated the ability to do that. And irrelevant of that, he's also injury prone, that height, careers get short when you're that tall. I think it's interesting, but maybe it's a 1 year experiment. It's $30 million, I believe, for this last season of his contract, and then they can renegotiate. So maybe it doesn't pan out. They trade him at midseason. Maybe they keep him and it ends up working out fantastic. Maybe he gets injured. Maybe they win the championship. I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities for the Celtics here. I believe it's sincerely just a move of they have been in the Eastern Conference Finals a truckload in the last couple of years, and they have not won the finals, and they're trying their best to win the finals, and they felt like they needed to do something different, which is a philosophy that I've always subscribed to. So I feel like this Celtics move gets them off some money. That was kind of dud money. They believe they've probably given up on Marcus Smart, and they're hoping that he's continuing to kind of decline. And they get in Kristaps, and hopefully it's a third scorer to help add to the amount of ISO threes that Celtics like to shoot. What do you think?
You just said before Kristaps, you don't believe Kristaps is proven even as a third option, even though his play had a career year as a second option here at the Wizards.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was a rhetorical. Look, I think when you're not playing for something of substance, it's different. And on the Mavs, I believe he had a legitimate shot. You especially look at that bubble season where they could have been easily in the Western Conference Finals, and they weren't. And they weren't because of persistent back and forth between him and Luka. You got Jason Tatum, he's another young star, and you got Jalen Brown, he's another young star. You're asking him to be competitive on a team where he isn't going to get the same amount of shots as he does on the Wizards. And in theory, it should be great. He should be the third option. You've got to divert your attention to the other two. He should get really easy looks. But we've seen this time and time again where stars struggle to adapt, right? And there's not many players that successfully adapt unless they're entering a dynasty window. And ironically, maybe he will because it's the Boston Celtics and they've demonstrated the ability to get there over and over again. But again, I think it makes me nervous. Makes me nervous.
I guess look, there's two sides to every trade, right? So let's look at the Celtics firstly. I guess you're sort of saying this is I don't know, maybe a C graded trade in your eyes for the Celtics here. And I guess there's firstly the Porzingis addition. I think like you said, they had to try something different, and it's probably worth a gamble in a sense of, all right, let's bring him in and add him as let's make this new big three sort of in Boston, and let's see if this can take us, for a couple more wins and go to the next step. But I think the bigger issue here is the subtraction here of Marcus Smart. Okay. I think that was such an intangible here where he played such a role with this organization and this team for, I think it was the longest tenured player there before he was traded, that he was defensive player of the year 2 years ago. Okay. And you mentioned this a few times in a few podcasts about how he's taken, taking a step backwards and stuff like that. Like, and every time I swear I pull up his stats and I go, what? Like, where do you come up with that such a statement? He's playing the same way he's played literally for like the same for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think he's taking any steps backwards or forwards. He's the sort of player you're expecting him to be. He's not going to score 20 points a night. He's going to give you sort of that 10 and 5 and 5, something along that lines. But the intangibles of him being able to guard the best player on the other team and so on and so forth, they're the sort of things you're looking for in Marcus Smart. So look, I think the Celtics, I think it's going to be interesting that, if they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be a top 4 team again in the East here. Can they go all the way? That's going to really hinge, I think, more so on other players that we're not talking about. Players like Al Horford, players like Robert Williams. Okay. And he wasn't healthy all this year. Can these players step up? Can Derek White now step up, who's probably going to slide into maybe a starting role? Okay, or Brogdon obviously, but probably Derek White. I don't know, who knows, right? But I guess whoever slides into that starting guard spot, can they step up and elevate their game now that they're given more of an opportunity in that sort of sense? So look, I think they're still a top 4 Eastern Conference team, which puts them sort of where they were before anyway, right? But I guess in any given day, can they knock off Philly? Can they knock off the Bucks maybe in that sort of sense? I guess we're going to see that if they're all healthy, you could say on piece of paper that they definitely could. I think the bigger point of this trade here is that I'm going to give you a prediction right now. I'm going to say the the Memphis Grizzlies are going to make the Western Conference Finals next year. You can put that down on my recording now. I think this trade actually shifts them into that sort of rarefied air. I think this is a great trade for the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, you bring in Marcus Smart and you effectively replace Dylan Brooks with him. Okay, and you bring back and you get back Steven Adams and Brandon Clark healthy. Yeah, and we always talk about health, right? That's always that asterisk on any team, how far they can go is health, right? You bring them back healthy, okay, and Jar comes back after 25 games off too. Okay, I think this team is going at least all the way to the Western Conference Finals. So, we got that here recorded there. Hey, you can laugh at me now in 12 months' time or whatnot. Okay. But I'm saying that this is a great trade for the Memphis Grizzlies. It was a bummer letting Tyus Jones walk, but you had to sort of give up someone to obviously balance it out. But, I'm sure they can find someone else that can give them that sort of minutes off the bench there. It'd be interesting who they can pick up in free agency.
I think the Marcus Smart angle in terms of the Grizzlies, not that we had a specific spot for the Grizzlies in our recordings today, but you're totally right. They basically I saw this floating around the internet, I really liked it. It's Marcus Smart is the player that Dylan Brooks thought that he is. So, you're getting that upgrade in the sense of you're going to get a defensive antagonist that doesn't actually create negativity for you as a
We all seem
club,
to forget. We all seem to forget Memphis finished second last year in the West, and this was amid all the crazy Jar drama. Yeah, all the even crazier Dylan Brooks rubbish. Okay, and they had both Steven Adams and Brandon Clark out. Yeah. Okay, so they finished second in the West here. All right. I don't know. I'm high on the Grizzlies right now.
Yeah, clearly. I think the Tyus Jones thing, you're talking about a point guard who I believe had the best assist to turnover ratio in a very long time. Not just this season, but like the last 5 years. And statistically, from a career standpoint, very, very good point guard. And that's actually what you sort of need if you're a Memphis Grizzlies front office right now, because you don't have one point guard for 25 games. And you just traded out the best backup point guard, theoretically, for another point guard that actually is a defensive-minded player. But yeah, sure. Look, sure. Yeah, maybe they'll finish first in the West. Maybe that's as far as I'm going to go with the outrageous Memphis claims. But I think there's a lot of good teams in the West, and I don't see them getting to the final two in the West. Sorry.
This is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist in giving our viewer a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.